Daniel chapter 5. Belshazzar's banquet. The writing on the wall. King Belshazzar hosted a magnificent banquet for 1,000 of his nobles. He was drinking wine in their presence. Under the influence of the wine, he gave orders that the gold and silver vessels that his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple of Jerusalem were to be brought in, so that the king, his nobles, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Therefore the gold and silver vessels that had been removed from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, were brought in, and the king, his nobles, and his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank their wine and praised their gods of gold and silver, of bronze and iron, of wood and stone. Suddenly, the fingers of a human hand appeared and began to write on the plaster of the wall of the royal palace next to the lampstand. And the king watched the hand as it wrote. Then the king turned pale, and his thoughts terrified him. His legs grew limp, and his knees began to knock. Then the king shouted aloud, ordering the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the astrologers to be brought in. When they entered, he addressed the wise men of Babylon and said, "Whoever can read this writing and tell me its interpretation shall be clothed in purple, wear a gold chain around his neck, and rank third in the government of the kingdom." However, none of the king's wise men could either read the writing or explain to the king what it meant. Then King Belshazzar became greatly terrified. His face grew even more pale, and the lords were in a state of confusion. When the queen heard the commotion made by the king and his lords, she came into the banqueting hall and said, "May your majesty live forever. Do not let your thoughts terrify you. Why should you look so pale? In your kingdom there is a man who has within him the spirit of the holy God. During your father's lifetime, this man was renowned for his enlightenment, insight, and godlike wisdom to such a degree that King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, appointed him as chief of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and diviners. Therefore, since this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, has a keen mind and is endowed with knowledge and understanding and the ability to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems, summon him. He will be able to give you the interpretation you seek." Then Daniel was brought into the king's presence. The king said to him, "Are you the Daniel who was one of the Jewish exiles that my father, the king, brought from Judah? I have been told that the Spirit of God is in you, and that you are renowned for your knowledge, understanding, and exceptional wisdom. Now the wise men and the enchanters have been brought in to me to read this writing and reveal its meaning to me, but they have been unable to interpret it. Yet I have been told that you can give interpretations and solve problems. If you are able to read this writing and make known its interpretation, you shall be clothed in purple, have a chain of gold around your neck, and rank third in the government of the kingdom." Daniel explains the writing. Then Daniel replied to the king, "Your Majesty, keep the gifts for yourself and give them to someone else. However, I will read the writing to your Majesty, and make known to you its interpretation. O king, the Most High God gave your father Nebuchadnezzar a kingdom with power, glory, and majesty. He made him so powerful that the nations and peoples of every language trembled with fear before him. He killed those whom he wished to kill. He spared those whom he wished to spare. He honored those whom he wished to honor, and he degraded those whom he wished to degrade. However, when his heart became filled with pride and his spirit became hardened with arrogance, he was deposed from his kingly throne and stripped of his glory. He was banished from human society, and his mind became like that of an animal. He was forced to live with the wild asses. He fed on grass like oxen, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven. until he learned that the Most High God has sovereignty over the kingdom of men and appoints whomever he wishes to rule it. Even though you, Belshazzar, his son, were aware of all of this, you did not humble your heart. You have exalted yourself against the Lord of heaven. You ordered the vessels of his temple to be brought to you, and you, your nobles, your wives, and your concubines have drunk your wine from them. You have praised the gods of silver and gold and bronze and iron and wood and stone, that neither see nor hear nor have intelligence. But you have not glorified the God in whose hands are your breath of life and the entire course of your life. That is why he sent his hand and wrote the inscription. The words inscribed are Mene, Tekel, and Peres. This is what the words mean. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and been found wanting. Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then, at Belshazzar's command, Daniel was clothed in purple with a gold chain around his neck, and a proclamation was made declaring that Daniel would rank third in the government of the kingdom. On that very night, Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was slain.